Respected Professor Acharya, respected Madam Acharya, because behind every successful man, there is always a wonderful woman. And she deserves a clap more than anybody else. The dignitaries on the dais, and I am the youngest of all the speakers who went before me, because Jagannath Babu was my 1 year senior to me in the college. Dr. Satpathy is 2-3 years senior to me. So I feel like standing here like a schoolboy taking an examination and leaving the award of marks to you. Like a teacher, I'll straight go to the topic. I have chosen only 6 points to talk about. There are 600 points. This book can be read in different levels. It's a multi-dimensional book. You can read it as a document of the social inequality. You can read it as a political book with political overtones. But I will concentrate on something else, something which it may sound a little new to you, and it may sound a little unfamiliar to you also. So you will forgive me if I sometimes fail to live up to your expectations. Now, while hearing the lectures given before me, I realized that everybody had a difficulty with the title of the book, including the translator. You have all heard about NARA NIRNARA, and Dr. Satpathy gave the interpretation that NARA ki NARA. But to me, it's something different, absolutely different. In English, there is a literary term which is called oxymoron. I'm not sure if you are familiar with that term. I'll explain that to you very quickly. Oxymoron, O-X-Y-M-O-R-O-N, that is creating a word by juxtaposing two different words, each antithetical to the other in meaning. I'll give you a simpler example, like unfortunate fortune. These are two different words, but they give rise to a third meaning, which is not there in the first two words. So, NARA NIRNARA is actually, to me, is an oxymoron. What does it mean? What is the third meaning that emerges out of it? Professor Acharya is a master as far as being a visionary that he is. What he has done is, he has made juxtaposition of the physical and the metaphysical. NARA is man, NIRNARA is unman. NIRNARA is a mythical creature which has a horse head, human form with wings. And it is also the repository of a lot of wisdom and gives you the anticipation of divinity. Try to understand. By putting NARA and NIRNARA, these are two different dimensions, two different worlds altogether, the metaphysical and the physical. Santanu has tried to, I'm sorry, if I say Santanu, forgive me, because in the same vein we talk about Shakespeare or Saradas or Kalidas with all respect and dignity. So I'm using the first name in that respect. So you find that, there you find, there is the NIRNARA is also the repository of wisdom. I'm not surprised that Jagannath did not find an equivalent in English lexicon to match the absolutely interesting title that Santanu had given to the text. So he had to go for a simpler one, looking for search for the soul. Try to understand that the whole book's ethos emerges in the very title of the book. Because it's the progression, it's a journey from the physical to the metaphysical, from the reality to the absolute and abstract. And that itself is suggested in that title, NARA, but it becomes rather a little obvious for obvious reasons, because you cannot do anything otherwise. That becomes a little obvious in the title that Jagannath has given, but it's a wonderful title in any case. I'm making my talk really short, so don't worry about that. The next point that I want to talk about, that this book has created a lot of problem for the readers. I mean, it just came to my mind as I was hearing the lecture of the people here talking about that people find it difficult to read. True. Because all of us are educated people sitting here. Please try to remember, has anybody ever told you how to read literature? Has anybody at any stage of life told you that how to read literature and why should you read literature? What is the purpose of reading literature? This training has not been imparted to our students over the years. It's very simple. If you read literature because literature takes you or gives you a sense of a different dimension, that is taking you from one level of existence to a higher level. That is the very purpose of literature. That you live on a plane, but literature makes you conscious of another plane somewhere to which you are expected to rise. Life becomes more meaningful. What does a writer tell? Writer tells simply this: look, I have seen this, I have experienced this way. I have lived the world this way. Try to see the world through my eyes. It is possible. It is possible that you will find it enjoyable and you will probably share it with me and you will enjoy life better. That is what the writer tells you. Look at the world through me. The way I have seen this, that's what Santanu has done. And Santanu's vision is a little higher. I have always considered him as a visionary. Writer is a visionary, always. He lives ahead of his time. He looks beyond his times. His experiences anticipate the immortality of the other world kind of thing. But this man is probably much more than that. In one or two articles of mine, I have discussed his stories, that how he really visualizes a lot of things. So here in this book, actually, he has visualized certain things which probably nobody ever thought of. I'll tell you what he has really visualized. We are also talking about the fact that this book is going to live for 50 years. No, this book will live forever. Because when he wrote this book, he never imagined that he is looking into 1,000 years ahead of his time. I'll give you what I have found. I'm not going to tell you the story in the book. Mind you, I'm also trying to give you some ideas, some tricks, how to read the book, how to understand it, how to go into it, and how to enjoy it. So that is probably my business. So not about the stories you must find out from the book itself. Now look, what he is doing is trying to say a lot of things by using commonly used vocabulary. Try to understand. Why I tell you this? That for all our experiences in life, for all the objects in the physical universe that you see, we do not have adequate vocabulary. You understand? Can you describe everything in the universe by using certain words? Do we have so many words for them? No. In no language, you have that many words to describe or narrate or express yourself, your ideas, your thoughts. You cannot do that. Therefore, you have to use pictures. You have to use similes, metaphors, different words, where to say one thing while using another word. That is, to say one thing through another word. That is what is creating a problem. The kind of idiom he has used, typical Odia idiom, we are moving away from that. We have the lost the power of appreciating the potency of words. Each word has a potency. It's very easy to understand. Like if I say ma, it evokes certain amount of emotion in you. If I say mabe, it creates a different kind of thing. Because you are undercutting the meaning of the word, the value of the word. So each word has a potency. Like jala or pani, they are not the same words. They are different. They mean different. The potency is different. We have lost the sensitivity to our words, which he has retained the words in the original potency value. He has retained it. That creates another problem for the reader. The kind of language Fakirmohan used, the kind of language Gopinath Mahanti used, the kind of language Kanucharna used, these words, and Santanu is also belongs to the same category and or different level or dimension altogether. But we have lost that love for potential or the power to appreciate the meaning of words. That is why there has been a lot of problem. Anyway, the second point that I want to make is the setting. The setting I will sum up in a simple way. It's a very dark world. It's a very dark world. Okay? And you find the characters are very deprived kind of characters. I will come to them a little later on. Now come to George. George. You had a problem, a lot of people said a lot of things about George. But here I find Santanu has excelled himself. Because George is not an individual. George is an icon. George is an icon. Icon of what? George is icon of modern man. Can you think of? That's why I said that his book will live 1,000 years. It's not a question of George belongs to a time, particular time. He's a timeless phenomenon kind of character, you know. George, you cannot confine George to a particular period. George is timeless. Now, let me see what kind of a tragic hero is that. Now, there is another interesting thing also. George, the name has two different connotations. One is, you will probably say that it's a Christian name, right? You can say it's a Christian name. But George is also in sound bite a variation upon Jaraja, an illegitimate child. Because I'm coming to that how he is a modern man, a repentant modern man. So think of that George is a kind of a tragic hero in a world of hopelessness where he's a truly modern man. How? True. Look, he is a child who is retrieved from the gutter. Right? He is retrieved from the gutter. He has no parentage. He has no family. He has no culture. He is cultureless, he is rootless, he is religionless, he is familyless, he is bondless. He is not connected with anybody. Think of, we are all connected with a certain system. But modern man is progressively becoming free. And its freedom is its most difficult thing. What do you do with your freedom? Because your relationship with the world, family or society or friends or religion or institutional religion or culture, that gives you an identity. Modern man is suffering from the identity crisis. So George truly represents the modern man. Hopeless, rootless, cultureless, nameless, familyless, unbonded character, free man, and the freedom is the handicap. Now, some of us are talking about the problem of identity. Now, what is this identity? We all talk of that he is suffering from a crisis of identity. Modern man is suffering from a big crisis of identity. What is this crisis of identity? We raised that issue, I think Dr. Satpathy raised that issue, which is the question of that, who am I? Who am I? That is the question, identity. But the moment he says, who am I, he is not thinking of whose son I am. Man is asking the question, and the question relates to what is the purpose of my living here, being here as a human being? What is the purpose of life in this planet? That is essentially the question Santanu is exploring through the book. Now look, there is a very fantastic image right from the beginning, running. Running is an image. Running is an image. George is running from the beginning. And his run continues as a life run, and it ends only in his death at the end of it. And he's running. I'll come to that a little later on, in fact. So he starts running, and he is a kind of a tragic hero. And try to understand who is a tragic hero and what is his situation. Who is a tragic hero? That the man who is capable of fighting the forces of destiny and absorbing the suffering, whether he deserves it or doesn't deserve it is a different thing. How much you can take, like a sponge-like, how much suffering can you absorb? That decides the stature of your greatness. A tragic hero's stature is decided upon his ability to absorb sponge-like the suffering dumped on him and turn that suffering into experience, turn that the experience of suffering into knowledge. That is the tragic hero. Look at George. George's suffering, entire suffering throughout is, he is not responsible. He is again a modern man. Think of, in today's world, the kind of, in today's world, all the suffering that modern mankind is suffering from, whatever you say, do you think man is responsible for all of them? Can you say that you are responsible for war in Ukraine, but you are suffering for that? Are you responsible for Pakistan's nuclear program? No, but you are suffering from that. Are you responsible for Trump becoming president of the United States? No, but you are suffering for that. So try to understand that modern man is not a hopeless case, or he is not responsible for all the suffering that he is enduring. So also George. Remember all the predicament of George. He is running from one experience to another, from one character to another, from one situation to another, and he has experienced a lot of things. And he is everywhere, he is at the receiving end. He is taking it on, learning through the experience, still asking the question, what is the purpose of life? Where does it lead me to? So that is the basic question that he is asking throughout. Now, another interesting point is that George never resents. He is learning. Others are not learning. He is passing from one experience to another, and he is learning. Look here, he has experienced all forms of relationship like a modern man. What? He has passed through subservience, he has passed through obedience, he has passed through becoming a agent of revolution, he has passed through becoming a Babaji and a fake Babaji kind of thing. So all these things he has explored. Everywhere he is looking for that answer. What is the purpose of life, in fact? So George is in fact our every man. I'm cutting it short, in fact. So, so what happens at the end of it? Let me close it quickly. When George dies, the question arises, if he learns so much, why should he die? The idea is, if the tragic hero survives at the end of knowledge, he becomes an ordinary man, and that would be anti-tragic, anti-heroic. What does George learn at the end of the book? That I'm coming to that at the end of it, in fact. Now, next point that I want to make, say a few things about, uh, Jagannath has a transition quickly. Now, he has already told you the very interesting words for which he could not find equivalent. And Santanu is a very masterly, he is a master writer, and he has given a typical Resi Odia in the whole text. Kind of Odia probably not available now, but to me it looks like, sir, probably it is a Kottrak atmosphere of the 50s or 60s, that kind of world in which probably you discovered your characters. We could have not heard about that in any case. So, Jagannath has a problem, and he has done a very good job here, a very good job in fact, that all over the world, in every language, translation creates this problem, because you have to, it's very difficult to find out cultural equivalents. It's very difficult, like Yogadikya, Orpaisa. You cannot just translate that into other language. It doesn't give you that potency. Because look here, as I tell you, when he says Orpaisa or Yogadikya, he is actually not meaning somebody coming and eating you. They are actually saying one thing, the meaning is that resentment, that opposition, or whatever it is, so kind of situation. So what he has done is a very good thing he has done. Because you see, when you change the language, it is not meant for the local readers. It is meant for people who do not know the original language. Okay? So what he has done is, he has a very good command over the language, English language, and he is very good in creating the syntax necessary for the text. He has raised the level of the language. Try to understand. He has not been able to remain at the Gotthard level, because you cannot find out the Gotthard level language. Let me tell you very honestly that I realized much later, after coming in contact with a lot of Englishmen, that I really don't know English. In the sense that I cannot have a feeling of that level. So Jagannath has done a wonderful job. He has raised the level of language to one from. Because he has raised it to one level, language becomes Five minutes more from and the last, so it's a very good job that is done by making the language rich. And the last point I want to make is about Santanu's imagination, which I call that he thinks in pictures. This is something every reader, whether we are reading in Odia or reading in English, should look for, and that will probably give you a lot of education. Now, Santanu's whole book is like a painting. I use a term, I don't know if you're familiar with that. If you know, there is something called a Baroque painting. Baroque, B-A-R-O-Q-U-E, Baroque painting, which is came at the time of 16th century in Europe. There are Baroque art, Baroque culture, Baroque architecture, but Baroque painting has one interesting fact, that it deals with depth, and it's a kind of interplay of darkness and light. So the whole frame finds that squalor, that dark, that fill, and there are very evanescent moments, very illuminating moments sometimes coming up sometimes. So it's a kind of Baroque painting in fact we find. And another thing is, the characters, all the characters, the names have been given, they are like steel framed pictures hanging in a gallery. They are one-dimensional pictures. They don't move in fact. Whereas George keeps moving all through. George is a kinetic picture. I mean, it's a moving picture, whereas others are static. They provide a kind of contrasting foil to George. I think I should come to the close of it. That George, at the last moment when he's killed, what has he lost? He knows that the entire book has one big factor, hunger. Hunger is in fact the color and texture of all emotion and all experiences. Hunger, basic hunger. But he comes to realize at the end of the text that hunger is not everything. Beyond physical hunger, there is love, there is compassion, there is piety, there is a feeling, there is also the desire to die for others and stand for certain values. That is what George comes to learn. I think with this, I come to the close of my talk, whatever it is. It has been a privilege to be here to talk about Santanu's book with him being present before me. And I really now feel like a school kid standing before his master. I hope the master will give me at least a pass mark. Thank you.